The sales presentation or sales pitch is critically important for any business. No matter how good your product is, if you can't effectively sell it, well then the business isn't viable. So it merits time and energy being spent into developing that sales pitch. And there are 3 steps. Step 1. This is the introduction. You're going to want to get your audience's attention. And that can be through sharing a compelling story, sharing a shocking statistic, or asking your audience a meaningful question to get them to reflect. Once you've gotten their attention, you can move to step 2, which is sharing the unique selling proposition of your product. This is how your product compares and contrasts to the competition. And I would encourage you, focus on the benefits your product offers, not the features, not the bells and whistles, but how all of that benefits your client. When you've done that effectively, move to step 3, which is call to action. And this is where you ultimately get the opportunity to ask your prospect to buy your product. And as in life, it is okay if you hear a no the first time you ask. A no simply means not now. It means there may be some lingering concerns, lingering objections they might have, and it's an opportunity for you to educate them about your product. Revisit the benefits of your product and why your product is their best choice. And often, that call to action leads to next steps around contact. In our world, in the asset management world, when we deal with clients, it often takes between 7 and 12 touch points before we move a client from prospect to a live consumer. And it's important to own that next step as the salesperson, as the business owner. It's up to you to demonstrate to your prospects that you want to work with them, getting them comfortable with your product, ultimately getting them to a yes when you ask that question again about whether they'd like to buy your product. And so never end a conversation with you telling your prospect to contact you or to call you if they want more information. You should own that next step. You should let them know you'd love an opportunity to speak with them again, give them a specific date and time where you'll be contacting them, and that way they know this conversation continues. Also, by you owning that next step, it's a great opportunity to demonstrate that you're committed to the partnership. Throughout the sales process, you might hear an objection. An objection is your prospect sharing perhaps a concern or an area they'd like to better understand before committing to the product. And when someone tables an objection or asks a question, I always start by validating the question or validating that feedback. So that sounds like, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I can absolutely understand why you're asking that question. It's a really important consideration as you're making the decision. Then proceed to share information that addresses the objection, and then circle back with your prospect around ensuring they're comfortable with the information you shared. That sounds like, well, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, I've had an opportunity to share some information that addresses your objection. Do you feel more comfortable moving forward in this conversation? And that way you can check in, make sure they're comfortable, and continue having the conversation. And as I mentioned, it might take several follow-up attempts and steps before they're comfortable moving forward with your product, but it's important for you to own that piece of the conversation and let them know when you'll be reaching out to have that next step in the conversation. So my best practices around developing a quality sales presentation or pitch would be start by getting their attention. If you can emotionally engage your audience in the idea that you're selling through demonstrating conviction and confidence and energy in your idea, that's a great start. But remember to keep it simple and concise. You know your product. You've been working on your product for some time, but this is a new concept or a new product to your client or your prospect. And so it's important to keep it simple and digestible for them to follow along with you. I would also encourage you to listen with the intent of understanding, not simply with the intent to respond. So when someone asks you a question or tables an objection, I'd encourage you to take a moment to reflect. Why are they asking it? And why are they asking it in that way? And that'll give you some insight so that you can, in an effective and quality way, respond to that objection. People want to be heard, and if they feel like they are being heard, they will be more comfortable with your response. So, get attention promptly, get them excited and engaged in your idea, keep your message simple, demonstrate that passion and conviction in the idea, and listen with the intent of understanding, and don't be afraid to ask the question, would you like to buy this product? If you've spent time practicing and then practicing again to ensure that your presentation and pitch is perfect, or as close to perfect as it gets, well then you should have conviction and confidence in being able to ask that question. Are you comfortable moving forward with this solution? Would you like to buy my product?